The autumn wind carried the bitter stench of smoke as I stood frozen, staring at the ruins of my life's dream. The blackened skeleton of my ranch house loomed like a ghost against the gray sky, its charred beams clawing at the air. My no trespassing sign, half melted, dangled from a post, swaying as if mocking me. The barn, with its hand-hewn timbers I'd spent months restoring, was gone. My workshop, filled with my grandpa's old tools, reduced to ash. Everything I'd poured my heart into for 2 years gone in a single night. The firefighters had done their best, but the smoldering heaps told the story of their defeat. I walked the edge of what used to be my property, the acrid smell clinging to my jacket. My boots crunched over scorched earth, each step heavier than the last. "Mr. Caldwell?" A woman's voice broke through my daze. She wore a dark blue uniform, a clipboard tucked under her arm. "I'm Detective Larson, County Fire Investigation Unit. Got a minute?" I nodded, words stuck somewhere deep in my chest. She led me to her SUV, away from the still hot ground, her face all business. "This was arson," she said flatly. "Multiple ignition points, accelerants. Someone meant to burn this place to the ground." My throat tightened. "You're sure?" She handed me photos, burn patterns, chemical readings, undeniable proof. "This wasn't some kids messing around," she said. "It was methodical, planned." My mind raced, a name flickering like a spark. "Any leads?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Neighbor's security cam caught 3 people on your land at 2 a.m. We've ID'd them. Eleanor Price, Stephen Holt, and Nathan Reed." The names hit like a punch. President, VYC President, and Treasurer of the Pine Hollow Homeowners Association. DA's prepping charges, she added, "but these folks have clout. It's going to get messy." What Detective Larson didn't know, what no one in this quiet valley could have guessed, was that those 3 had just made the worst mistake of their lives. They'd burned down the wrong man's home, and the fallout would ripple far beyond this scorched acre. 6 months earlier, I'd stood on this same spot, but the world was different then. The rolling meadows stretched toward the foothills, a creek glinted through pines, and at the heart of it all sat a weathered ranch house from the 1880s. After 2 decades as a land surveyor for the state, mapping boundaries and settling disputes, I'd finally found my slice of heaven. Pinewood Ranch had been empty for years, its owners long gone, their kids uninterested in the upkeep. When I saw it listed dirt cheap, I knew it was mine. The real estate agent practically hugged me when I made a full offer without blinking. "Most folks balk at the work it needs," she'd said, leading me through creaky halls. "And then there's the Pine Hollow situation." I raised an eyebrow, inspecting the original oak floors. "What situation?" She sighed. "Pine Hollow Estates, the HOA. They've been after this land for years to expand their fancy development. They don't play nice with outsiders." I smirked. In my job, I dealt with plenty of overzealous HOAs. "No problem," I told her. "This place is protected under the Historic Homestead Act. They can't touch it without my say-so." The sale went through smoothly. I took a 6-month leave from my role as regional director of the State Land Commission to focus on restoring the ranch. My plan was simple: keep its old soul intact while fixing what needed fixing. No McMansion nonsense, just honest work to honor the land's history. 3 days after MOVYing in, I got my first VY ciders. A woman with a silver bob and a smile too perfect to trust stood on my porch, holding a gift basket. Behind her were 2 men, one lanky with glasses, the other short, in a golf shirt that screamed money. "Good morning," the woman chirped. "I'm Eleanor Price, Pine Hollow HOA President. This is Stephen Holt and Nathan Reed. We're here to welcome you." I took the basket, sizing them up. "James Caldwell. Thanks for stopping by." Eleanor's smile widened. "We're thrilled to see Pinewood occupied. The HOA has big plans for this valley, and we'd love to talk about bringing your property into our fold." I and VY-ted them in, curious to see their angle. My VYing room was bare, just a card table and folding chairs, but Eleanor launched into a polished pitch about HOA perks. "Our dues are only due lawn $900 a month," she said, sliding me a glossy folder. "Covers the pool, landscaping, security, you name it. I nearly spat out my coffee. $900? For what? Stephen adjusted his glasses. Community upkeep, architectural revalues, the works. I flipped through their folder, jaw tightening. So, you control what I do with my house. Eleanor nodded, chipper as ever. All Pine Hollow homes follow our aesthetic standards. We noticed you've started renovations without approval. I leaned back. I'm restoring a historic property. I haven't signed up for your club. Nathan spoke up, his voice sharp. The old owners agreed to join. We assumed you knew. An agreement's not a contract, I said coolly. And this land's exempt under the Homestead Act. You know that. The air turned icy. Eleanor's smile hardened. You knew here, James. Pine Hollow has a lot of sway with local officials. It'd be smart to play ball. I stood, done with their game. Thanks for the basket, but I'm keeping my place independent. That's my right. As they left, Nathan paused on the porch. Reconsider, Caldwell. Things get tough for folks who don't fit in. Trouble started small. Letters arrived, citing fake violations. Me fence was too tall, my paint color unapproved. I fired back with legal citations and photos pro-VYing. I was in the clear. I installed security cams, sensing things would escalate. By month 3, they did. Eleanor started parking her Lexus at my driveway's end, snapping pictures like a private eye. Contractors got spooked by HOA members whispering about unapproved projects. Fake code violation notices popped up on my fence pure fraud, which I reported to the county. What got under my skin wasn't the harassment. It was the principle. I'd seen HOAs like this before, little kingdoms drunk on power, bullying anyone who wouldn't bow. Then they crossed the line. The creek running through my land, with water rights dating back to 1892, started drying up. I traced it to illegal diversion channels the HOA had built upstream for their golf course and ponds. I filed complaints with the water board, complete with photos and records. 2 weeks later, inspectors shut down the diversions and slapped Pine Hollow with hefty fines. The valley turned hostile. Signs sprouted on neighbors' lawns. Good neighbors joined the HOA. Anonymous notes in my mailbox told me to go back where I came from. Ironic, since my family's been in this state for generations. I kept working, though. The ranch house was nearly done, its exterior gleaming with period details. The barn had a new roof, and I'd started replanting native grasses in the meadow. This wasn't just a home. It was a piece of history I was bringing back to life. For months in, the county held a town hall on zoning changes. Pine Hollow was pushing changes that would gut agricultural protections and boost HOA control. I don't like public speaking, but I had to act. At the meeting, I took the mic and laid it out for the commissioners. Legal precedents, conservation laws, the valley's heritage. This isn't about zoning, I said. It's about whether we let a few people erase our history for their own gain. The room went quiet. Eleanor, Stephen, and Nathan sat in the third row, their faces like stone. As I sat down, Eleanor whispered something to Stephen, their eyes locking in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. 3 days later, my ranch burned to the ground. I was at a conference 300 miles away when neighbor called. Flames had swallowed the house by the time firefighters arrived. The barn and workshop went with it. Nothing was saved. Standing with Detective Larson amid the ashes, I felt a strange calm. This wasn't just a crime, it was war. What now? I asked her. We're building a case, she said. But these people have money and pull. They're already saying they weren't near your place, despite the footage. I made 2 calls that day. First, I ended my leave. Second, I told my assistant at the Land Commission to pull every file on Pine Hollow's properties. It was time to go to work. See, Pine Hollow didn't know who they'd crossed. As regional director, I oversaw land grants, easements, and permits across a third of the state. My signature greenlit billions in development, including Pine Hollow's pending projects. Back at my desk, I dug in. One file stood out. A 120-unit luxury development needing state approval for roads through protected watershed land. The signatures? Eleanor Price, Stephen Holt, Nathan Reed. For weeks, I combed through records, cross-referencing deeds, tax filings, and old land grants. Pine Hollow had been built on state trust lands sold with strict conservation rules they'd ignored. Their pond sat on protected wetlands. Their golf course sprawled onto restricted easements. Water usage reports showed years of underreporting and illegal diversions. Most damning, key parcels weren't even owned outright. They were on 99-year state leases that hadn't been audited in decades due to oversight failures or worse. Every violation I found was a crack in their armor. I documented it all: 173 infractions, 62 permit violations, 39 illegal developments. I kept my work above board, recusing myself from direct votes to avoid biased claims, but I made sure the state's oversight finally kicked in. Pine Hollow's watershed project stalled. Their water rights request got hung up. A full compliance re-VYEW of their leases was launched. 2 months after the fire, a county commissioner tipped me off. Eleanor was frantically calling state reps, furious about the delays, my name on her lips. Then the pushback came. A formal complaint accused me of abusing my power to dismiss fast, since my bosses had signed off on every step. Anonymous calls hit my temporary apartment, some silent, some menacing. My email flooded with concerned citizen complaints. At a planning meeting, Nathan publicly called my actions personal revenge. I stayed quiet, letting the enequity pile up. 3 months in, I called a final hearing. The State Land Commission would rule on Pine Hollow's compliance. The room buzzed with tension as I faced Eleanor, Stephen, and Nathan, their lawyer at their side, dozens of HOA residents in matching shirts behind them. The chairwoman noted my recusal from voting, but introduced me to present my findings. I stepped to the podium, portfolio in hand, and looked straight at the three who'd torched my home. For an hour, I laid out satellite images of illegal construction, water theft records, lease breaches. Pine Hollow has committed 173 violations, I said, voice steady. This is a fundamental breach of their state lease. Eleanor shot up, face red. This is a witch hunt by Caldwell, she shouted. He's retaliating because he wouldn't follow our rules. Stephen admitted minor issues but begged for a deal. Nathan leaned on economics, claiming Pine Hollow's due law, $12 million tax contribution justified leniency. The commissioners weren't swayed. One by one, they voted unanimous. Pine Hollow was in substantial noncompliance. All applications were denied, permits suspended, and evidence of fraud sent to the Attorney General. Eleanor stood, screaming, "This isn't over. We have friends in high places." Security escorted her out, her glare burning into me. I felt no thing, no triumph, just clarity. A wrong had been righted. The fallout was swift. Pine Hollow's expansion died. Maintenance permits stalled. Remediation costs loomed, due lot $15,000 to due lot $20,000 per household. Residents turned on the board, who resigned en masse. The DA pressed forward with arson charges. Eleanor, Stephen, and Nathan took a plea probation, restitution, their reputations ruined. The media pounced, exposing Pine Hollow's environmental crimes and shady dealings. I had a choice to make about Pinewood. Insurance paid out enough to rebuild, but that felt wrong. This land deserved more than my ego. I created the Pinewood Heritage Trust, donating the property and part of the settlement to preserve it forever as a meadow and forest, with programs to teach about the valley's history. The burned foundation would stay, a quiet scar overtaken by wildflowers. 6 months after the fire, I stood at the ranch's edge. Native grasses were creeping back, saplings rising where old trees fell. A sign marked the land as a heritage site. Detective Larson pulled up, out of uniform. "Thought I'd find you here," she said. "The three took a plea yesterday. Eleanor admitted they wanted to scare you by burning a shed. Didn't expect the fire to spread." I watched a hawk soar overhead. "Arrogance and stupidity," I muttered. "Bad mix." "Why not just arrest them?" she asked. "You had the proof." I turned to her. An arrest would have let them rebuild, keep their power. I needed to burn their system down slowly, legally, completely. She nodded, DRIVYing off. I stayed, the valley stretching before me. Pine Hollow still stood, but its reign was over. New leaders would face scrutiny, the land would heal, and a precedent was set. No one's untouchable. But here's where it gets messy, folks. Did I go too far? wielding my authority like a weapon? Should I have rebuilt my home instead of GIVY in the land away? Was justice served, or was this revenge dressed up as principle? And what about HOA? They protect communities or just breed petty tyrants? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more tales that'll make you question everything. What would Sayusaw have done in my shoes?